Bradley Lewis's friends repeatedly try to warn him. Those around him fear that the 22-year-old is in grave danger. But despite the warnings, Bradley repeatedly dismisses them, until the situation escalates in March 2022, and the young father is murdered by someone very close to him, and who many of Bradley's friends and family have long been afraid of. When Bradley Williams meets Abigail White, he is 14 and she is 15 years old. At that time, Abigail is still a normal student. Later, as an adult, she builds an online persona. On social media, she calls herself Fake Barbie. She also uses this name to set up an OnlyFans account during the coronavirus pandemic. OnlyFans is a platform where creators can offer their content behind a paywall. The subscription model is mostly used to sell revealing content of all kinds. She promotes her account under the pseudonym Mitzi Lewis on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. Every now and then, she also shares private insights into her life. She describes her boyfriend Bradley as the best daddy anyone could ever wish for on her profiles. Abigail's business is doing really well. Within a year, she has earned over £50,000 through OnlyFans. That's the equivalent of about $63,000. Her boyfriend Bradley also appears in some of her OnlyFans content. He actually works as a tiler. In 2022, the couple live in a small house in Kingswood, South Gloucestershire. Bradley is now 22 years old and Abigail 24. The couple have 3 children together. Bradley also has a daughter with another woman. Abigail also has a child from another relationship. The two of them repeatedly cheat on each other with other partners in their relationship. However, this seems to be clear to both sides somehow. The big hype on OnlyFans subsides after the first financial year. Because of her pregnancies, Abigail withdraws from the platform. Abigail only earns about $1,200 per month with OnlyFans. While this is still a considerable sum, it is far from the success of her first year. Abigail doesn't have another job, so Bradley is mainly responsible for providing an income for the family. But the family faces not only financial challenges. The relationship between Bradley and Abigail is also characterized by intense conflict. Even social services become aware of the family. The family is monitored because it cannot be guaranteed that the children are in a safe environment. The authorities even order that Bradley and Abigail should live separately. But secretly, they still stay together in the house in Kingswood, until Bradley eventually seeks distance. He no longer sleeps with Abigail and their 3 children, but at his mother's house. The conflict with Bradley also becomes apparent on Abigail's social media profiles. In February 2021, for example, she posts a video in which she writes, "We all know an asshole named Brad. Brad is the nickname of her partner Bradley." So she exposes him on her social media profiles, in the midst of OnlyFans promo and content from her toddlers. And it won't be just exposure for long. On March 25, 2022, Bradley decides to end his relationship with Abigail for good. The two meet in a park to talk things through, where Bradley tells Abigail that he is going to break up with her. At some point during the day, Abigail uploads a video to TikTok. She captioned the clip, "Me with his homeboy when I find out he's been cheating on me." She made corresponding hand gestures. A song by British rapper Hazy was playing in the background. In the chorus, he raps, "Because when I speak on these beats, they get murdered." Just 2 hours after Abigail recorded this video, someone was indeed murdered. And it was her who did it. In the early evening, both Abigail and Bradley are meeting up with friends at a pub called the Horseshoe Inn. At first, Abigail goes there alone. Bradley doesn't show up until later, around 6:30 p.m. When he arrives at the Horseshoe Inn, Abigail is extremely aggressive towards him, both physically and verbally. And this despite the fact that their friends have their children with them. The argument between Abigail and Bradley also affects other guests. Abigail hits Bradley and pours a drink over his head. She spits in the face of one of Bradley's friends who tries to help him. Another uninvolved guest then slaps her, and the 24-year-old goes down. She even calls the police herself afterwards. However, it quickly turns out that Abigail hit this uninvolved man first. This can also be seen on the pub's surveillance footage. Abigail's personal details are recorded, but she is not arrested. During the course of the evening, she drinks a bottle of wine, 2 rum and cokes, a glass of Jägermeister energy drink, and consumes a small amount of cocaine. Bradley's friends desperately try to stop Bradley from going to Abigail's house after the incident in the pub, especially since Bradley is currently living with his mother and no longer with Abigail. But Bradley decides to go to Abigail's house anyway. He is worried about her and is afraid that she might harm herself. After their breakup that afternoon and the incident at the pub, she's obviously more than unstable. And even though they are separated, the two of them have 3 children together. A friend drives the two home at 7:50 p.m. Bradley says to him, probably more in jest, that Abigail would murder him for what he did. But that's exactly what she does. A neighbor of the couple, Laura Cundy, dials 911 at 8:20 p.m. that evening. She has heard Abigail scream loudly, something that sounded like, "Please help me, I can't get through." When she enters the house, she sees not Abigail but Bradley lying on the kitchen floor. Motionless, his breathing is very shallow. A distraught Abigail tells Laura that Bradley has been hurting himself. She then tried to call 911 but got no signal. Laura reacts quickly and calls 911. After a few unsuccessful minutes, she manages to get through. On the other end of the line, Laura receives instructions from the emergency call center. She is to apply pressure to Bradley's stab wounds to stop the bleeding. Abigail sits next to her and tells Bradley to, "Stay with me, stay with me. Where are you?" By this, Abigail means the ambulance crew, who are still on the way at this point. While the couple wait for the police, Abigail calls a friend and tells her over the phone that Bradley has stabbed himself seriously. She later repeats the same statement to the police. However, the couple's 3-year-old son has a different story. The young child was in the house during the incident. The boy tells the police, "Mommy stabbed Daddy." While Bradley is taken to a nearby hospital, Abigail White is arrested. Before Bradley is taken away, Abigail says, "He must not die. I love him so much." In the early hours of the following day, he succumbs to his injuries. Bradley Lewis dies from a stab wound that hit him directly in the chest, 7 centimeters deep, right in the heart. It took 4 months for Abigail to finally admit that she had committed the crime. Until July 2020, she stuck to the version that he had inflicted the injury on himself. According to her testimony and the evaluation of evidence, she is charged with the murder of Bradley Lewis. In court, the defendant claims that the relationship was abusive on both sides. Abigail explains that Bradley controlled her OnlyFans sales and kept the money she earned. She also shares details of how she and Bradley broke up. Accordingly, he admitted to cheating on her the day they broke up. Abigail had repeatedly accused him of this before, but he always denied it. The TikTok she posted on the day of the breakup, and thus also on the day of the murder, fits with this. In addition, some new information came to light during the trial. 6 days before his murder, Abigail had injured Bradley's arm with a knife. The two had previously argued because Abigail had been jealous of another woman. Bradley sought treatment for this injury at an emergency clinic on March 20th, 2022. He did not tell the truth there, but claimed that he had sustained the injury during football training. Another time, he called a friend in a panic. He told her on the phone, "Sophie, help me. She wants to kill me. She's trying to get back at me. She's always hitting me. She's hurting me." The young man repeatedly confided in friends and told them that he was afraid of Abigail. Even before March 25th, Bradley tried to leave Abigail several times before March 25, 2022. But he didn't go through with it because Abigail repeatedly threatened to harm herself if he left her. Abigail is also said to have threatened to kill people around Bradley, such as his mother or his ex-girlfriend. Abigail even told friends that Bradley would never tell her the truth about things if she didn't beat him up or hurt him with knives. This is evidenced by the defendant's WhatsApp conversations. She sent a message to Bradley himself saying, "I swear to God I'll stab you." Abigail repeated her new confession to stabbing Bradley Lewis in court. She denies the murder, but admits manslaughter with diminished responsibility. Abigail now says she only wanted to scare Bradley a little with the knife. The two had come home from the pub together and had been arguing. During the course of the argument, Bradley had become aggressive and pushed her against a wall in the hallway. Abigail then ran into the kitchen and saw a knife lying around. She picked it up and held it up, then turned back to Bradley. Abigail says, "I picked it up and went back to Brad. I went over to him to shock him, to startle him with the knife. And before I knew it, I had startled him. I picked up the knife out of anger and desperation, but I didn't mean to hurt or kill him." As part of the process, Abigail is also examined by a psychologist. The psychologist certifies that she has a personality disorder and, contrary to Abigail's own account, believes that the defendant was in full possession of her mental faculties during the crime and knew exactly what she was doing, and that she wanted to kill Bradley. The cause of Abigail's personality disorder is thought to lie in her childhood. She was sexually abused by her stepfather. She lived in a foster home for a period of time as a teenager and got involved with the wrong crowd. She overdosed twice, once at 13 and once at 16. She also suffered a miscarriage in 2015, according to her own account. Just a few days before the murder, on March 17, 2022, she also had an abortion. According to the psychologist, the characteristics of her disorder led to extreme and extremely erratic behavior. In addition, there were particular fears of loneliness and rejection, which had intensified in the weeks before the breakup. And all of that exploded on March 25, 2022, when Bradley Lewis wanted to break up with her. Abigail White is sentenced to life imprisonment for the murder of Bradley Lewis. She will spend at least 18 years in prison. When Bradley is buried, more than 800 guests attend his funeral. The 22-year-old leaves behind 4 young children and numerous friends. Abigail does not yet appear to be showing any real remorse. There is a TikTok clip of her from 2021. It reads, "When your husband annoys you and you report him to the authorities because of it." After Bradley's murder, someone commented on the clip, "Fingers crossed she gets what she deserves in prison." Abigail's profile replies to this comment. "Yes, thank you, I have a cozy bed and the food is great." Of course, we can't say for sure that it was really Abigail who posted this comment from prison. But if it was, then it's more than tasteless. That brings us to the end of today's video. Feel free to write to me what you think of the case and also of the TikToks of Abigail. The profile is still online and I find it really interesting to scroll through it a bit in retrospect. It's really a bit creepy and surreal. If you liked the video, please leave a like, comment, and/or subscribe. This really helps to support the channel. Otherwise, there's not much more to say. Have a good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on when you're watching this video. And I hope we'll see each other again in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye, guys.